What is up, everybody? Welcome into Shout a Buffalo Bills Football Podcast. You know me, man. It's always just something crazy happening. I get home from the facility today, Ryan, and I get ready to. I said 6:30. We're gonna go live at 6:30. I get down at about 6:22, 6:25. Get ready to go. Everything of my setup was still at St. John Fisher. It's not still there. It was all in my car. I had not brought it home and set it all up yet. So I had to get to work doing all that. Apologies about the tardiness, but we got a lot to talk about today on Shout.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to getting into today's practice, some signings that the Bills have made and are reportedly making, and also look, a little bit ahead to Pittsburgh coming up.
Oh, baby. It is going to be a fun week here on the Shout Podcast. The Insider text line, you can join right now by texting 716-528-6727. You're going to want to be a part of the week here as we head to Pittsburgh, bring the show on the road for the first time this season. Ryan, a little bit of housekeeping. August 31st, we have finalized that date for our next live show. It is going to be at Wingnuts in Amherst, 1402 Millersport Highway. We cannot wait. That's going to be right after the Bills take it down to 53. So that'll be a fun time to get everybody together, have a big party, talk about the real first idea of what we think this Bills team is going to be for 2024.
Yeah, cannot wait for that. Made a stop to Wingnuts this past weekend after the first preseason game. They just celebrated their 6-year anniversary. So looking forward to that show on August 31st.
All right, so let's get into this practice today, Ryan, because a little bit of confusion around Bills training camp. Like once they leave St. John Fisher University, is it still training camp? It is. And Sean McDermott made sure to let everybody know that for a few more, about a week and a half here, it's still going to be training camp. It's going to be open practices to the media, not to fans. And the deal is, it changes a little bit of what we can report. So you gotten used to us talking about first team, second team, third team reps. You're not going to be able to get that at this stage. We'll read a lot of stuff into the lineups when we get to the preseason. You'll probably be able to put the pieces together based on the shows, but still a lot of 11 on 11, 7 on 7 stuff that we need to get into. And I think the best place to start is Keon Coleman, who I think most people, Bills fans, have probably already seen the video of him going up on the ladder today and making another jaw-dropping grab. And Ryan, it's really for him, it's the athleticism. And I want to talk a little bit about his day and what I think it means in terms of projecting him into his rookie season. But are you getting to the point now where it's almost like these kind of highlight reel plays are going to be the expectation when the games start?
I would hope not. I mean, they shouldn't be the expectation, but the fact that we have seen them so much this summer at training camp, the video that the Bills released today, getting to see that athleticism, it's probably a big part of why the Bills drafted him in round 2 to open up the draft this year on that second night, because he does have the wingspan. He has the ability to go up and get passes. He has the ability to, take balls away from defenders, those 50-50 balls. Those are all areas where the Bills were lacking someone last year and the last few years. So, I don't want to sit here and say that should be the expectation week in, week out, but I think you are going to see a few of those highlight type of plays throughout his rookie season.
So his day was interesting because he was targeted quite a bit. I mean, I think you could put his target share up against anybody's in practice. MVS had some targets. Mac Hollins had a nice day. We could talk about him a little bit. But we also saw a collection of plays where it kind of illustrates what it's going to be like for him this season. So you got the highlight reel play where he goes up in space, makes a nice play. That's nice. He had a nice catch on a short one on a really hard pass from Josh Allen, fit it into the hole, gave him a good bit of separation on the play. I believe he was working against Christian Benford, caught, I think, 2 more passes throughout practice. But then I go to a play against Kaiir Elam where I'm like, okay, here's something that might be an adjustment for Coleman at this level. The physicality at the line of scrimmage. There's a big difference in the press coverage he's going to face in the NFL. Guys like Sauce Gardner, guys like Christian Gonzalez, both those guys 2 times a year in the division. Week in and week out, how he deals with the physicality, because it almost felt like he was the first read on the play, and Josh Allen just went in another direction because Kaiir Elam kind of just shut it down there. Listen, I don't want to make anybody worried about Keon Coleman or anything like that, but I even saw it a little bit in the game the other day, right? Like on the one pass where it kind of flew over his head, he kind of tripped in the route. Those are the kind of plays where you want him to be able to win physically to get to a point to where he can be competitive at the catch point.
Yeah, absolutely. And going against that at practice on a regular basis is going to benefit him. He's getting that from Kyrie Elam. He's getting that from Jamarcus Ingram. We've seen it over training camp where they're being physical with him. And maybe he's struggling now, but how do you get better at anything? The more you see it, the more you come up with moves to counter it, the more you come up with ways to either run through it, fight through it. This is going to make Coleman better because, as you said, it's not going to get easier when the games start being played. There are going to be very physical cornerbacks testing him to see what he can do. Can he get off the press? And, that's going to be a big test for him. And as his rookie year goes on, you expect him to get better in that area. You expect it to eventually become a strength because until he can beat that, you'll probably see a lot of teams try it.
Keep talking because I'm adding something up here.
All right. As you're setting this up, yeah, Coleman's practice overall, Matt, good reps, good athleticism. He's going against a lot of the best players already on this team, obviously, with where we saw him at training camp. We saw him go against, the guys that we expect to be their ones on the defensive side of the ball at St. John Fisher University. He's getting reps against Elam, who's had arguably, the best or most consistent camp of his life and one of the most consistent of any of the cornerbacks on this team. So this will all make him better in the long run. I thought he had some good routes against the Bears. Obviously, the one against zone that he caught, knew where to sit on that play. There was another play where Allen went to Shakir with the ball, but you saw Keon running open down the field on that play as well. So he's created a little bit already on tape, and hopefully it just continues to grow from there.
I had Allen charted today between 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 about, and this is roughly, I just did the counting in my head, 24 for 31. And I thought this was maybe his best passing day. Now it was the highest volume because he was the only available quarterback in practice today. He was the only guy out there. Mitch Trubisky was excused for a personal reason. Shane Buechele, he's going to miss an extended period of time. He suffered a neck injury against the Bears. So the Bills went out and signed Ben DiNucci, former Dallas Cowboys 7th round draft pick. You could tell us a little bit about him in a bit. You've written a bit about him today. But I thought across the board, Allen looked really good today. Now, he was intercepted twice, and we're going to get into those plays in a little while. Had some incompletions. But I thought overall, if you're talking about from the start of practice to the end, a really nice day for a guy to rebound coming off, not him specifically, but the offense. After only putting up 6 points against the Bears, it felt like it was a clean practice for the offense. Obviously not in pads, so that's something to consider as well. But Josh Allen really on point today.
Yeah, and there's even videos of him during practice that you guys are permitted to take, throwing at the nets, going 4 for 4 there, kind of sharp from the get-go, even before the 11-on-11, 7-on-7 stuff happened. But without being in pads, you're right. It takes a little bit away from that. But in terms of his overall accuracy and day, sounds like he had another great day there. And he obviously wasn't the problem in that game on Saturday against the Bears either. He was moving the team down the field. He made some nice throws. It was kind of the second, third team offense, the offensive line at first and second team there, and the run game, which I think was impacted obviously by the play of the offensive line.
So I mentioned Mac Hollins, and I went on with Mike Shope and the Bulldog today. You were on the Fan in Rochester with your weekly check-in with those guys. And one of the things that came up was like the wide receiver group for the Bills. And like, we spent so much time talking about that this offseason. And now we're sitting here about a month away from the start of the season. And I don't know if like a number one has been established, but it's interesting that like when you go to practice and you watch them go through their warm-up drills, Mac Hollins is the guy that's taking the first rep every single time. And in a lot of ways, you even look up the depth chart, the unofficial depth chart, he's listed ahead of Keon Coleman. Like it feels like the Bills are in so many ways treating him like the number one receiver. Are you concerned at all about that? He had a nice day today. He had a nice catch over the middle on a laser from Josh Allen, caught a touchdown during the red zone period, which I think he was working against Christian Benford on that play. I'll have to look it up to be specific. But Mac Hollins is such a crazy story because he was maybe a play or two away, a break or two away from maybe being out of the league at one point in his career. And now he has the greatest opportunity of his career to play with Josh Allen and maybe be a big part of this offense.
Yeah, I don't read too much into the depth chart part of it. Most coaches, the first rendition of it before the first preseason game, they reward the veterans over the rookies. They have the rookies pushed down a little bit on the depth chart. In terms of being the first one out there running routes, he has a lot of veteran experience in that room where Khalil Shakir has been in this system the longest, but he is still just a third-year receiver. Keon Coleman is a rookie. Curtis Samuel's been around the league for quite some time as well, but he's going to be doing a little bit of everything for this team. I don't want to just kind of put him into the wide receiver only type basket. He'll be in the backfield at times. He'll be doing a lot of different things. So in terms of wide receivers, in terms of their experience, Hollins is up there, and maybe it's just kind of a veteran thing. We talked back in the spring, Matt, about how vocal Mac Hollins was on the field, and that goes away as well. Once the games start getting played, if he is the number one receiver, would I be concerned? Yes, because you invested a second round pick in Keon Coleman. You heard Brandon Beane after the draft essentially say that's our X receiver. They bring in Samuel to be that slot gadget Swiss Army knife guy, and then you have Khalil Shakir, who saw great strides from year 1 to year 2, and you're anticipating him being that number one weapon in this offense based on what you saw on Saturday, based on you saw the chemistry that he's developed with Josh Allen. But in terms of what, being the first in the drills, the depth chart, I'm not too concerned about that just yet.
So the injury report for the Bills today was, again, remaining pretty long. One interesting addition to it was Brian Thompson, who I think went down in the game, depth wide receiver. He suffered a hamstring injury, and Sean McDermott said it was going to be a week-to-week situation for him. And so the Bills responded today by signing Damiere Byrd, former New England Patriots wide receiver. What do you make of that signing? And then Ben DiNucci, who the Bills brought in as the quarterback to replace Shane Buechele, who's going to be out for a while.
Yeah, Byrd has some speed to his game. He adds that element. It's going to be tough for him to obviously make a push for a roster spot at this point in time. But in those last two preseason games, he probably gets a lot of run, and he could potentially help on returns. We saw in the first preseason game, KJ Hamler had one nice return, but he also muffed a ball, had some struggles with the wind there in Buffalo. Same with Daquan Hardy. You have Ty Johnson coming back into the fold. He could be a factor. You can at least see what Byrd could provide in that area as well. But again, expectations not too high. As for the Ben DiNucci signing, it makes a lot of sense. And, once the Bills announced the injury to Shane Buechele, I put out an article of 8 candidates, and one of them was DiNucci. And might have been an odd name to add to the list, but when you look at his last stop in the league, Matt, in 2023, he was on the Denver Broncos practice squad the entire season. The head coach of the Denver Broncos is Sean Payton. Payton was essentially Joe Brady's mentor in New Orleans for the 2 seasons that he was there as an offensive assistant. That was his first NFL job. He learned a lot of the concepts that he runs comes from Sean Payton. You can say that he's part of the Sean Payton coaching tree. So I think in terms of what Brady wants to do in these final 2 preseason games, he can kind of go over these plays and say, and then DiNucci's going to probably in his mind say, oh, well, in Sean Payton's system, we called it this. He has some background in terms of a lot of the concepts that you're probably going to see the Bills be running under Joe Brady. And although it's going to be very vanilla in these last 2 preseason games, I think some of the terminology that he's already comfortable with will help him because he's going to play a lot of reps in these last 2 preseason games.
I'm actually interested to see that part of it is how quickly he can get up to speed. Like, how much do you think he'll play on Saturday, DiNucci?
And until we know the status of Josh Allen, I'm not quite sure.
Can we see a whole Mitch Trubisky game here on Saturday against his former team?
No, I would hope not, because then you're playing with fire on a guy that you invested in to be your backup. You don't want him playing all 4 quarters.
Well, I mean,
I know he left a lot to be desired on Saturday. But with Josh Allen, after the game, he made it sound like he wants to play. I don't necessarily know if the Bills will honor that request. I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't play at all. And then if that's the case, I think you stretch Trubisky out to 2 quarters, and then you give DiNucci the whole second half. And I know that's not ideal for guys fighting for roster spots or practice squad spots, but you got to throw this guy into the fire because we don't know the extent of Bouchel's injury. We just know that he's going to be out for an extended time. That's what we were told today by Sean McDermott. So this is a real, audition for him to show what he can do. And if he doesn't fall flat on his face, there's a chance maybe he can stick around on this practice squad and steal that spot from Bouchel.
What if DiNucci comes in and just goes scorched earth and knocks Mitchell Trubisky to the curb?
Yeah, that's not
that. You don't think that? So you're making no chance for DiNucci to push Mitchell Trubisky for that back.
No.
What's the contract on Trubisky? How much?
It's decent. I mean, there's some guarantees in there. It's a 2-year deal. They've raved about him from day one, but this is kind of like a little Tommy DeVito here. We bring in a Ben DiNucci, and I think he's going to be a fan favorite. He has that background.
Yeah, he's got 1.5 guaranteed of $2 million this year. I don't think they're going to cut him.
Good luck.
And they love it. They love them some Mitch Trubisky, man. But here's the thing I'm telling you right now, and this goes back to my original argument on the backup quarterback hype that people just get all up and, emotional about. If Josh Allen goes down for any significant amount of time, it doesn't matter. Like you could have who is the number one best backup quarterback in the NFL? Who has the best backup quarterback situation in the NFL right now? Go.
Off the top of my head, I honestly am not even sure because it really depends on how some of these battles shake out. But
maybe the Vikings if JJ McCarthy wins the job and Sam Darnold's the backup. I mean, that's what you're talking about, right? Jameis Winston in Cleveland. I like that. That's a good one, Anthony.
Gardner Minshew possibly with depending on if he wins the job or not.
I don't even put Trubisky in like the Jameis Winston category. Right?
Oh, yeah, Steelers is a good call.
Steelers, because they got 2 starters. I agree. Like that's probably good. But man, at times Russell Wilson has played just as bad as Trubisky did in Pittsburgh last year. We can see that same kind of performance. I don't know. I just think that like to go from the level that you have with Josh Allen to whatever it's going to be to the other guy, it's too far of a drop off.
Yeah. For every Nick Foles, there's 100 Jeff Tools where if you lose a guy and you start playing your backups, it's going nowhere and it's over. It's over before it starts. There's no chance. The Nick Foles type of quarterback play coming out of nowhere doesn't generally happen. That's why that was such a cool story in Philadelphia when it happened years ago. It's not happening in Buffalo with Mitch Trubisky or anyone that they could sign. Even, a lot of fans were clamoring for them to sign Ryan Tannehill today. One, Tannehill's not going to sign to be a number 3 quarterback. I think he'll wait for an injury where he can come in, be a clear-cut number 2, or even push for a starting job. But it doesn't matter. There's no one out there that's going to change their fate if something were to happen to
Allen. I don't know. I seem to remember a little rumor that you used to own a Jeff Toole jersey. Is that true? Did you ever have that in the collection back in the day?
Oh, no. Ryan Mormon was probably my most unique.
Embarrassing? That was the word I would have chosen.
No, they sold them in stores. That's embarrassing for the state of the Bills, I guess, at that time.
I'm pretty sure Mormon at one time was like the most popular selling jersey.
Oh, 100%. He was on the field more than almost anyone because he was always punting.
No, I said the Tool jersey because even if you had it, I didn't think you'd spell it Teul. I think you'd spell it like Tool. I didn't know.
Oh, boo.
I didn't know if it was maybe a gag gift or something like that. No.
Real quick, I have to ask you too because we talked about Mac Hollins. What was playing baseball like barefoot? Did you feel like Mac Hollins a little bit? I
gotta give him a fist bump next time I see him. It was wonderful. So what happened was I was wearing sandals, and you can't run in the outfield in sandals. So I'm just like, you know what, dude? Like they're hitting fly balls out here. I got to shag some. I'm gonna show the youngins how to do it. So I just took my shoes off. Felt great. My knees felt great running. Everything was great. Anthony Romeo coming in here. Brian Mormon is a legend. Block. I don't want to get too far down the road in my special teams take. People get really upset about it because I don't know if I would go this far, but like if they eliminated special teams from football, like I wouldn't be upset. I guess.
Yeah, man.
My take on it. Is that too far?
What are
that
you
too
going to
far
come
of a
back
take?
to, a Rob Johnson guy? My goodness, Matt Parrino.
I was a Rob Johnson
I
guy,
know
dude.
you were. That's why I threw it in there.
Yeah, I was a Rob Johnson guy. That's all right. In hindsight, Rob Johnson was the great dream that we wished him to be, and he wasn't. And I can admit that now. And we had Doug Flutie on the podcast, and I admitted as much to him, I think, during
Yeah,
that
you did.
during that
You
episode.
did.
So there you have it. All right, let's get back to practice. Where do you want to go next, buddy?
Let's go with someone that graded out extremely well on Pro Football Focus and had a nice practice today. Linebacker Balin Spector.
Balin Spector. I gotta tell you, man, this dude is charging up the position battle, roster battle. He's on the right side of the bubble for me because you got Nick Morrow, who can't get on the field. You have Deion Jones, who's kind of been stuck on that third team defense. And this is a veteran guy. Like, to have Balin Spector playing over you at this point, like, kind of gives you a little some warning signs. And Spector comes out today and makes a huge play. He was in obviously going to get up against Josh Allen. Let me pull up the note here. I don't want to get anything wrong. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was in the intended target. It was a ball over the middle. And I thought on the play, I was talking to Joe B about it, MVS could have like pushed a little bit harder to get back into the play and try to make a play on the ball, and he didn't. But Spector is there. He makes the play, runs it back a little bit. The defense was feeling itself. There was a lot of back and forth chirpiness, as you will. But a huge play for a guy that, Terrell Bernard, I asked him about Spector after practice today, and I said, what's it been like watching him? They came in together. They've worked a lot together. And he said, yeah, you could tell he's taken a huge jump in terms of what he knows about the defense, what he's able to share with other linebackers about the defense. Like, he's probably their backup middle linebacker at this spot.
Yeah. It's never been about the talent with Spector. We've said this, Matt. We said the guy runs around like his hair is on fire. He was actually given legitimate first team reps last summer at training camp when they were trying to figure out who was going to start opposite Matt Milano. It's not the talent, it's been the health. He could not stay healthy. He's been dinged up. He's suffered. He's missed time because of various injuries in his young career. He stayed healthy this summer. That's the big thing. That's the one change. And because he's been on the field and he's been available, he's making those plays more consistently. Those flashes that we saw last year have become more consistent. The coverage is there, the ability to go sideline to sideline. I used to say that the Bills were like the best team in the league years ago in terms of like scouting running back talent. They could find running backs anywhere. I feel like now, especially like via the draft, linebackers are very high on their list in terms of, Matt Milano early on in the tenure of Sean McDermott. I know Brandon Beane wasn't there for that one. But they bring in Edmonds, and say what you want about Edmonds. He cashed out a $72 million deal after his stint in Buffalo. So, at least one team thought very highly of him. You have now their current starters, Terrell Bernard, and their top backup, Dorian Williams, and now you have Balin Spector. They just know how to draft these guys, and they find talented players throughout the draft at the linebacker position. And Spector, to his credit, has earned, where he is right now, which I agree with you is on the right side of the roster bubble.
T Dobbs over on YouTube says, hey guys, Matt, I just listened to you on WGR. I'm one of those fans who really wants Justin Simmons. And actually that came up on the show, Ryan, because it's like, you look at the safety situation right now behind DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp, and It's not great. I mean, I haven't seen enough from Kareem Jackson and Terrell Burgess to sit here and say that you're comfortable if they're your 3 and 4 safeties. And I know Cam Lewis is in the mix. He could play there. We were pretty high on Kendall Williamson watching the game back. There were a couple moments where I thought for the big moment of the pass breakup, there were also a couple plays in there. The penalty. There was a play where he gave up a catch. He's still a depth guy for a reason. I think a big splash play is if they get to the season and we don't know how serious the Cole Bishop injury is and the timetable. If he's going to miss like the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season, do you really start to think about, because of the lost time here for your rookie, a run at a guy like Justin Simmons, who's kind of still hanging out there?
Now would be the time, Matt, because you're starting to see the interest in Simmons rise. He made a visit with the New Orleans Saints. I believe it was late last week. He has a 2-day visit planned with Atlanta right now. To my knowledge, I think it starts tonight and goes into tomorrow. or maybe it's tomorrow and into the next day. So the interest is starting to get there, and you have to figure out, one, if you're going to make a play for him, what are these other teams offering if they are making offers, and can you compete with that? But it's certainly still a need based on the fact that your two guys that you factored into being in up for that starting role have been week to week, and right now the depth behind DeMar Hamlin and Taylor Rapp is not ideal. So one, you'd have to convince him that if he were to come here and earn a starting job, he's not going to lose it to, in a few weeks to someone else. He would be there for that entire season, which with the talent, as long as Simmons still looks like the Simmons that he was in Denver, I wouldn't anticipate that. But yeah, veterans right now, that those big name veterans that are still available, they're starting to make visits. It's like Stephon Gilmore. He's going to visit Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Now is the time if they're going to do it, but the cap will be part of the issue for sure with any of these bigger name veterans, because they're still going to want to get a decent contract. And can the Bills swing that? Can they build a contract, with void years? What would they have to do to make a move like that work?
Speaking of depth, where I think all of a sudden there's some sneaky depth, Ryan, is the cornerback position. And I think a big reason for that for me is the play of Jamarcus Ingram. And of course, this is a very pro University of Buffalo podcast. I'm not going to shy away from that. But I think Ingram's had it, as strong a training camp summer as anybody has. And, he had a day-to-day where it's just like the physicality at which he plays with, even without the pads on. It's like this is the kind of thing that reminds you of Christian Benford, the way that Ingram kind of approaches the game and how physical is it in the line of scrimmage. He had a rep today where he just bodied a receiver. I think it was KJ Hamler. He had 2 pass breakups in the practice today. He was in the mix for a couple other ones. DeMar Hamlin ended practice actually with an interception of Josh Allen. So that was a big play for him. I didn't get a chance to send that out to the insiders yet coming back home, but I'll throw that in there. I just think Jamarcus Ingram has been really good. I don't think the Bills are in any rush to bring in veterans at cornerback. And they probably can't afford the ones that are out there. And Donnybrook asks, how are you going to pay a guy like Justin Simmons? You just might have to take less money at this point. What's more important to you, a contract? Like, is somebody going to offer Justin Simmons at this point? He's been a free agent all offseason, a multi-year contract that's worth a lot of money. I don't see that happening. So I think it comes down to, like, where's the best place to win? You mentioned Atlanta. You mentioned New Orleans. I think the Bills still give you the best chance to kind of make a run as a contender.
Yeah, 100% on Simmons in terms of if he wants to win. Of those 2 teams that he's visiting with, neither necessarily are being projected, I guess, to be Super Bowl contenders this year. Multi-year deal doesn't seem like it's something on any team's radar, considering he's still out there in free agency. But Jamarcus Ingram, you're right. He has had a great camp. He's had a nice preseason. The physicality was on display in that Bears game. Just like we've been talking about, he jammed one of the receivers at the line, took him out of the play early on in the game when he was out there on the field. I like his game a lot. I love what we've seen from Kyer Elam. Those guys have earned high depth spots on the outside for this team based on their summer. And one of my biggest issues was that depth at cornerback, and I feel pretty good about it after seeing how they fared this summer.
My biggest takeaway from the game on Saturday, watching it back again this morning, dude, the defensive tackle depth might be a problem. Like, I think we may have overvalued Austin Johnson, Deshaun Williams. I still think Dwayne Carter has a chance to be a really nice upgrade piece in that third spot. But as we saw on Sunday, Ed Oliver comes out of the game. Now Dwayne Carter has to go into that like top spot. That changes his entire role. And without Daquan Jones out there, we saw just zero push, liability in the run game. Like, if Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver don't play all 17 games this season, like, I consider my concern level very, very high. I think that position, defensive tackle, more so than edge, based on the performance of Javon Solomon in that game. And it's just one game. You don't want to overreact to it. But I'm almost going to flip and maybe say, when rosters are cut down, defensive tackle might edge out edge rusher in terms of what the Bills are looking to add from the heap of players that gets cut.
And I think it's fair. I thought Austin Johnson flashed once or twice in that game, but there was a lot of inconsistent play from him, absolutely. We've already talked about the other depth options there. A big fan of Dwayne Carter. I think he'll be great, but overall, they may need to add another name there, and they're going to have to scour the release players, see who one would be a good fit for the scheme. They don't usually add the really big boys, the guys at 330, and that's kind of a dying breed of defensive tackle in some areas, but there's going to be guys that fit their scheme, fit what they look for in players of that position. And it wouldn't shock me if they made a claim on a player, or players that don't get claimed if they try to sign them to the practice squad, and maybe elevate them at a later date and time.
250 watching on YouTube. Thank you so much. We really appreciate everybody making Shout a part of your Monday night here. Ton of football to get to this week. We're heading down to Pittsburgh in a couple of days, Ryan. I'll be picking you up bright and early Thursday morning. So make sure you get to bed. I don't want you to be rolling out and I'm driving by with the train and only in and trying to get you in the car. Make sure that just like I am always promptly on time for everything.
We were joking about that recently, Parrino time. I'll be at the hotel between 7:30 and 8. So I said, okay, 8:15 it is.
And you were right on the money, Ryan. You were right on the money as usual.
It was pretty close, right?
Listen, I was late only because I wanted to make sure that your prediction came true, like right on the money. That's all.
But no, looking forward to it.
Habitually late, dude. Like it's a problem.
But the good news is it sounds like this joint practice is going to be, early afternoon as opposed to early morning. So we're going to have some time to get there, but we'll leave bright and early, make sure we're there with plenty of time.
The Shout text line is where you get access to Ryan Talbot and Matt Parrino 24/7, 365. $3.99 a month, Ryan. You cannot beat that. Less than $50 per year. And we give everything analysis wise, news wise, takes on breaking news. Like we had some stuff about the quarterbacks today you sent along. All that stuff gets dumped into the insider text line immediately. So you never have to go on social media if you don't want to, because some of these websites in 2024, I mean, it could be a real slog. 2-week free trial if you sign up, 716-528-6727, or go to joinsubtext.com/shout Buffalo Bills. The Shout text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Beyer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give them a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com.
Yeah, hey, how about a little MVS talk, Matt? We had a little Sean McDermott pep talk for him today. How was his day overall? I know you said that the one Spectre interception came on a throw intended. But
he had some catches today. I mean, I actually thought that he looked faster today. And that was actually one of the things that Sean McDermott said. It's like he's kind of getting up to speed, and they're starting to kind of see him play at the speed with which they thought when they signed him. And I think that's an interesting piece to all of this. And listen, based on his quote, MVS, I believe in MVS. No drops today, Pops Mafia. And the live cast is August 31st at Wingnuts, 1402 Miller Sport Highway. I believe in MVS. That's what he said today. I think he's been watching a little NXT. I think he's got the catch. Too. I think he's got the song in his head.
Did anyone clap after he said, I believe in MVS? Did anyone go?
I did in my head.
I
didn't want to do it out loud. I want to be disrespectful because I don't think he would. Fair. I don't think as big of a wrestling fan, like amateur wrestling, as Sean McDermott is, I don't think he's tuning in WWE SmackDown on Friday nights.
Hey, you never know. You never know unless you ask, Matt Parrino.
Maybe that's my next big question. My next big press conference moment. Harold's always on it. Did he miss the Davidson update? There is a Davidson update, Ryan. I didn't even send it out to the insiders yet. Do we break this news?
I think we shall.
Oh my gosh. It was the most absurd celebration of the day when Josh Allen completes a pass to 84 Zach Davidson with Jamarcus Ingram in coverage, and Davidson takes it all the way to the house. It was a pretty long run, dude. It was a pretty spectacular touchdown. And on a day where Quentin Morris had a drop or two, maybe not a drop or two, but an incompletion or two, Zach Davidson, man, like when the guy is targeted, there is an energy on the sideline, and that kind of flowed over onto the field today. Some people jawing back and forth. I wonder if Spector maybe said something after he picked one off, because it seemed like he got a few choice words. He was in the area as Davidson kind of. Oh no, that was the Reggie Gilliam touchdown, which we could talk about as well. But another big day for Zach Davidson, where he's in the mix. That's all I could say at this point about him.
And I think that's fair. I was a little surprised at his usage in the preseason game. You don't know why or the reasoning behind why some of these guys come in when they do, but he's had as strong of a camp as anybody. It's going to be an interesting decision to see what the Bills do there at tight end number 3.
Oh, that was the shortest clip of Ryan Talbot talking about Zach Davidson this entire summer, but that's okay because we got to get out of here. But before we do, Reggie Gilliam, dude, every time Reggie Gilliam is targeted in the passing game, it almost like, especially in the press box, like during a game, there's a bunch of groans, right? Like, oh my gosh, why are you throwing the ball to Reggie Gilliam with all these other talented pass catchers? But man, like he's got a little bit of juice too. Like they trust him as a tight end. He made a really great play today. The celebration that followed was something to behold. And it was, we don't swear on this podcast very often, Ryan. The throw from Josh Allen was a fucking rope. Excuse my French. Excuse my French.
You just
was an absolute dart.
You just went from like we don't swear much to like the highest swear word. Like I thought we were gonna get
that was shocking.
Or something.
Listen, this isn't afternoon camp observations shout. This is prime time shout. The kids are to bed. They're not watching. So hopefully the little F-bomb there. You won't get a lot of those. You won't get a lot of those on shout, but every once in a while, boom, we'll work one in. I actually don't know if you've ever dropped an F-bomb. Have you?
Probably not on
right.
shout,
right.
outside of shout, more than I'm proud of.
Okay, that makes sense. That holds up. Because I'm like, yeah, I definitely heard you swear before. A lot of reaction to this. I might edit that out in the audio version. That was a lot to take in for the audience.
It was. I think it got to him a little bit, but
no,
great.
If you don't see a highlight of the throw, the emphasis there, the word usage, you get it.
Okay, I guess one last question, but then before we get out, Josh Allen was recently on with one of the Long brothers on a podcast.
Did you listen to the whole thing yet?
No, just the part with the rope to Jake Kummerow.
Oh, I did hear that part.
Would it be comparable to the Kummerow throw? Because Allen said that's the hardest football he's ever thrown.
And that was in the Chiefs game?
That was against the Denver Broncos when they clinched the division. He fitted in between two players. I mean,
I found it. I'm watching it right now. Oh, actually, it's called Josh Allen's Bullet. Let's see here. Okay, so it was that level of throw, but Reggie Gilliam was like 7 or 8 yards closer to Josh Allen, and he still caught it. So put that into perspective. It was, as a matter of fact, coming off the practice field tomorrow, I'm going to stop Reggie Gilliam and say, how was that? How was catching that one? Because it looked scary.
That's awesome. Looking forward to hearing his response, Matt.
All right. Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino. We got to get out of here. Kevin Desky for more swear words. Can't do that. We're kid-friendly show. We're gonna drop a shocking moment on you 2 or 3 times a season. Ryan Talbot's karaoke is coming in a couple weeks. That's gonna shock. That's gonna scare. It's gonna be great. You gonna do it? Will you do it a little bit?
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see. Get the people going. We'll see you tomorrow. We got another practice tomorrow, and then we're hitting the road to Pittsburgh. Have a great night, everybody.